Alrighty, you're live.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheyenne Brady. I am going to serve as your moderator today for our segment on caring for my emotional health. And today I have three amazing individuals, and I'm going to give them some quick time to introduce themselves. I'm going to go in order of how you guys are on my screen. So Cheyenne, I'm going to start with you as to not confuse them with the two Cheyennes.
You think we'd be used to that by now, but we're not. No. Chihintam, everybody, Chahochifke, Cheyenne Kotum, Yaketishet, Chahochifke, Itotum, Seminole Kutomlet. Hi, everyone. My English name is Cheyenne. My given name is Ite, and that translates to Fired Miccosukee. I'm from the Seminole Tribe of Florida. I'm 24 years old. I live here on the Hollywood Reservation in Florida. And I am your Miss Indian World, but right now I am just normal Cheyenne. And so I'm really excited to be joining you guys for this conversation. I think it's very, very important. And I know that everybody on this panel has really great things to contribute to this. So Shanabashat, thank you.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Shavana, we'll continue with ladies first. Tomas, if you're okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shavana Underwood. I come from the Quinault people. I'm 24 years old. I am a 2020 Champion for Change. I'm the secretary of the Quinault Canoe Society. I'm the vice president of the Quinault Culture Committee. I am a full-time student at Evergreen State College, where I'm studying healing in Indigenous communities and advocacy. And I am the administrative assistant for our behavioral health program here at my tribe, where I work with chemical dependency and mental health. My platform is healing, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Shavana. Tomas, we'll pass the mic over to you.
Awesome. Keshe, Kuirava. My name is Tomas Carmelo Amaya. I am Yoeme and Ashwi on my mom's side and Raramuri on my dad's side. I'm currently in Phoenix, Arizona, which is Otham territory. I am a father of one. My baby girl, Hesea Koya Amaya, and my partner, Sierra, is in the other room as well, Sierra Begay. I am a creative director and a co-founder of the Indigenous 20-something project from the Native Wellness Institute. And it's an honor to be here in this discussion with you matriarchs. And I'm looking forward to what we have to share with community.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tomas, for representing our male counterpart today. So I am super excited to have all of you, and I love all of the work that you do to empower and uplift our people. And so today, our focus is around caring for our emotional health and kind of allowing ourselves to feel those emotions, how we get through those emotions. Some of the topics that we'll talk about today are, of course, self-care. It's kind of been our theme this week in the Communities of Healing Power Hours. Thank you to Native Wellness Institute for allowing us this time. For everyone out there, they are on week 27 of weeks of Power Hours, which is amazing. Kudos to them. And then right now, what they're allowing us to do is come together as a collaboration, and we're obviously working together to show healthy collaboration within the Native workplace. And I think that's beautiful. It's a collaboration between Native Wellness Institute, the Center for Native American Youth, and We Are Native. And thank you again for being here. And to kick us off, I want to ask you guys, what do you do? We'll start out light. What do you do to care for yourself? How do you love yourself? And how does that affect your mental state and your emotions? And I will kick it off with Tomas.
Okay. Well, for me, there's a lot of things that I could speak to as far as my connection to the Native Wellness Institute and that family, and how I integrate, my own Indigenous teachings from my tribal nations. I definitely lean on those kind of the life ways to help me focus my energy and restore balance in my life. And one thing I like to point out for others out there that are artists is, and we talk a lot about with the Native Wellness Institute and others, our peer groups and our network, about this abundance-based thinking and really feeling like we have so much within us that we can work off of to heal ourselves. And so when I think about it from an art perspective, I think of how our people across the board in Native country are able to express so many things about our lives and our life ways through the things that we make with our hands or with our voices and all these different expressions. And so I think of not only the process of it, but just the that healing aspect of it. And so for me, as a creative person, that I'm one of those, like what they call like polyhyphenate, like, you know, I like to, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, I'm a photographer, and I like to encourage those of us who feel almost like overwhelmed with like, which role do I fit in? Like, am I a writer, am I a photographer? I think that one thing we learn about in different indigenous communities and teachings, it's okay to be many things at once. And some days for me, going back to your question more directly, sometimes I feel more like writing, or I feel like saying something a cappella, and I'm maybe in the backyard or in a different room, and I'm playing like an instrumental beat, and I'm just letting out those expressions, and that helps me kind of at the same, like, let other people around me know how I'm feeling, but it lets me know how I'm feeling as well for myself. And whether I decide to share those expressions or not, you know, is up to me. But personally, it helps kind of guide that that flow of energy and emotion that I'm having. And there has been times where I've kind of like surprised myself that I almost unearthed something that I couldn't put my finger on, but through this mode of expression, whether it be writing or filmmaking, it kind of brought it to the surface, and I was able to then handle it with care. And that's really important, and maybe save that for later in the conversation. Like, what do we do when our emotions are lying in front of us and we brought them out? How do we create a sacred space to handle them with care and let others know that we have boundaries so that we can handle them with care?
Thank you, Tomas. That's a great kickoff into our conversations. I appreciate your talk about, if you're just joining us, Tomas answered the question of how he cares for himself, how he loves himself, and how that affects his emotions. And he talked about focusing his energy, kind of centering that energy, expressing himself, or allowing us to express ourselves through making things, and the healing that can be in the process of making those things. And he talked about roles, like sometimes we're so focused in on maybe the tags, or like we can only have one role, but we can have multiple roles, and on different days we maybe lean into different roles. So thank you, Tomas. I'm going to kick it over to Shavana to give us insight into how you care for yourself, how you love yourself, and how that affects your emotions.
Yeah. So if you asked me this question a couple of years ago, I would tell you that I don't love myself. And that's really sad, but I think a lot of people can relate to that. So I'm not ashamed to admit that. It took me a long time to love myself. I was born and raised in the poverty line's basement. So I decided to give myself the love that I always deserved my entire life. I was raised in the system. I was homeless. So all these things that happened to me, but they didn't change me. I decided to love myself, eat healthier foods. I understand that's not always attainable for people for budget reasons, but it's a life that I built for myself, to eat healthy foods, to drink water, to speak my language. I'm not fluent in English, and I'm really proud of that. I speak more Quinault, and that's really healing to me, and that's how I love myself, how I love my ancestors. And pre-pandemic, self-love for me was learning our songs and dances, and I've been doing that since I was a child. So now that we don't have that, I've had to come up with a lot of different other ways for myself. So I get really good sleep. I make sure I get 7 hours. I have myself on a strict sleep schedule, and I have a therapy dog. I live with mental illnesses every day. So I have a therapy dog, and his name is Biscuit, and he's the best thing in the world. He's just so sweet. So I just surround myself with things that make me happy, and it's a slow process, but I promise you can get there. I didn't think I would be alive this long, but I'm here, and I want you here. I want every person who's listening to be here and know how powerful and beautiful you are.
Thank you, Shavana. And I just want to note that we are happy to have you, and we're thankful that you're here with us, and thankful to have you in this space. And thank you for opening yourself up to share those insights into your life, and being so vulnerable. It's hard to be vulnerable, but thank you, because that vulnerability helps some of us to grow and to learn, and to really be able to look within ourselves and to connect with others, and understanding that, okay, she's gone through what I'm going through. Maybe I can get through it too. So thank you for sharing that. And for anyone who might just be tuning in, we are talking about how we love ourselves and how it can affect our emotions. Shavana talked about how a few years ago, if you would have asked her, she might have told you that she didn't love herself, but she has worked and gone through that tough time, and is working on continuing to love herself. And she loves herself through traditional language, and noting that it's okay to not be a fluent English speaker, which I was like, yes, that is true. All right. So thank you for that, Shavana. She also noted getting good sleep and having a therapy dog, and different forms of therapy are good. And so Cheyenne, I'm gonna kick it to you. Can you tell us how you love yourself and how that affects your emotional well-being?
I really appreciate both of your answers, because I really resonated with both of them, especially in the way that Tomas talked about, I guess, not fitting one label or fitting different labels in multiple days and so on. And then, also with Shavana expressing her vulnerability and, especially admitting, that a few years ago, I can sit here and say the same thing. I wasn't always comfortable with my skin. And it was hard. It was like a tough process to get over that shame and just admit it. And there's a lot of beauty in loving yourself in a world that tells you that you shouldn't, and we don't fit these like European beauty standards, and we don't fit a lot of these boxes that they try to put us into. And so it is powerful and it's beautiful to be able to sit here and say that. And so I am thankful for both of you and your answers. And I guess like for me, pre-pandemic, it was, I guess, just taking care of like my sleep. And Cheyenne, that as Miss Indian World, like you are all over the place all the time. And so, just paying attention to your sleep, even if you just get like a decent meal that isn't McDonald's, I used to be very thankful for. But I guess now I really had to take a step back and like really change my perspective on like, am I really taking care of myself? And I realized that I wasn't at all. I was lacking as far as what am I feeding myself? Am I exercising? And I even started questioning a lot of the relationships that I had in my life. And so I found myself actually going back to therapy once again, which I'm doing, if not just weekly, actually more than once a week. And I had to really start questioning myself and the things that I was doing day to day. And so one of the first things I did going into the pandemic was I organized my sewing room, like this little space that I have for myself. And that was actually a bit of like my safe space, my little sacred heaven for myself. And that made a big difference. And then I started really paying attention to the things I was eating and my sleeping patterns and the relationships and the friendships that I had. And, it's kind of like learning how to do it all over again, because I was so used to being out and about all the time and surrounded by people. And I definitely think that I'm a person on the fence of, I kind of like recharge around my family, my friends, but sometimes I really need my alone time too. And so I guess my self-love is kind of rooted in being honest with myself, and sometimes even be giving myself that tough love. Like, girl, you need to chill. Like, you need to go to sleep right now, and you need to get off of social media, and you need to just be in silence and let yourself think. And I definitely think a few years back, I wouldn't have labeled myself as an emotional person. I was like very reserved and very like to myself. But now I find myself like crying and stuff all the time, and I don't feel so bad about it anymore. And so I always tell people, if you need to ugly cry it out, just do it. I do it in the car like all the time. And it's all right. It's nothing to feel weird or shameful about. Like, we all got to do it. And so it's a lot of just being honest with myself and definitely creating good boundaries, making sure that the relationships around me are serving me in the best way possible too, and just protecting myself and my body and my mind and my spirit. And every day that's different too. You know, like one day it could be just playing music while I do the dishes. The next day it could be that I really need to go outside and like feel the grass under my feet. And so continue asking yourself these questions and how you should be taking care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Shai. And I think when you were talking about sometimes we just need an ugly cry, all three of us are like, yes. And I appreciated seeing Tomas because I'm like, all right, yes, thank you. Like, I love that you're so willing, because sometimes like that masculinity, like I feel like we're working on breaking that that barrier that stays there. So thank you, Cheyenne. Talked about beauty and loving yourself, and I want to note that Cheyenne mentioned that sometimes we don't fit into the European beauty standards, and that's okay. That is perfectly fine. I don't. My mom always mentions like creator wanted a variety, and that's why we all look so different, and I love that, and so want to give her that shout out. Hey, just kidding. And Cheyenne mentioned that she had to take a step back and say like, am I really loving myself through doing all of this work, good things, good work for the community, for the people, really looking back and saying, am I taking time for me and loving myself? And so thank you for noting that. And moving on, one thing that I want to talk about that I think is like a little bit of a, I don't want to say it's a struggle, but it's something that definitely as natives that we go back and forth on, is balancing humility in what you're doing, but then also having the confidence to continue forward in the work that you're doing. So the confidence in knowing that you can get all of these things done. You can start your company, you can be a voice for the community, you can, do all of these amazing things. Having the confidence to do that, but then having humility in what you're doing. If you guys can speak on that, if you're comfortable speaking on that, I would love for you guys to share some insights into that. And I am going to keep switching it up, and I'm going to go with Shavana.
Yes. So I think it's kind of a story, but natives are storytellers,
Yep.
so everything is a
We
story.
learned the story.
So my journey for just becoming a better person began with someone telling me that they remind me of Miss Indian World. So I'm really excited that 2 Miss Indian Worlds are on the call right now, because this story just means a lot to me. The vice chair of my tribe told me that my humility really reminds him of Miss Indian World. And that was the best compliment of my life. It changed my life. And I was like, me? And I was just like a shy res girl. So it really taught me to kind of hand the torch off to anyone who wants that learning experience, and to push people to want to become a better person, because that's what I had. So I want everyone to have that opportunity. I want everyone to feel like they are worthy of their dreams and to become someone who they really want to be. So I want to be that person that they can turn to, whether you need a letter of recommendation, someone to listen to you, someone to find resources for you. I like being that person to uplift people, and I like kind of being more underground anyway. I don't like being like in the front. I like being underground and showing the ropes to people on how the bigger things come to fruition. Just those things are really important to me, and sharing my knowledge. It doesn't belong to me. Like my ancestors' knowledge was given to me. I give it to people who come to me and who come across my path that I want to share with. So that's how I kind of blend humility with all of my roles that I have in my community.
Thank you, Shavana. And Tomas, I want to kick it to you, being that you found this company, you do this amazing work, this initiative. How do you balance like having the confidence to do the work that you do, having the confidence to step into spaces and say and to really speak up, and then the cultural aspect of us always carrying humility and being humble for in what we do. So I want to ask you if you're comfortable to elaborate on that and give us some insight. Maybe there's people who want to do different things but are nervous to speak up, might not have the confidence to speak up.
Most definitely. First, I wanted to talk about the and thank you actually for both you Cheyennes. We have two Cheyennes here, so we're blessed, and Shavana too. Just like I love these power hours because it always is so insightful and informative, and it just helps me on my own healing journey. And I'm excited to share that with my own family members and community, and we're sharing it now here on Facebook. I just really wanted to quickly talk about the ugly cry, because if you were to go back and make a compilation of all the times I cried, you could have like 2 straight minutes of me crying on these power hours. So I'm completely comfortable with it, and it made me think of something.
So are you giving us the okay?
Yeah. Please make that compilation and tag me.
Okay.
what I want to say is like, let's also like change the norm on that too, and not to be any type of way, but I was like, okay, if it's not an ugly cry, is it a beauty cry? But then why are we relating it to beauty? What if we just call it a healthy cry? Dang, did you see the person healthy cry? Yeah. Did you see my healthy cry?
Let out his emotions.
Yeah, like, so there's that. But going back to the question right now, and again, thank you, Cheyenne and Shavana for your answers. And I always feel so good when I am in the presence of our matriarchs. Like, I don't know, but I was raised with 2 sisters and very strong matriarch figures in my life. And my father's also this amazing individual who respects and taught me to respect our matriarch. So it's just a huge blessing. I can't say that enough. When I think about confidence and how we basically balance that with a lot of our indigenous teachings of humility, I think of, again, going to a bit of a short story, is like, when we created the Indigenous 20-something project, it was in part or in large part because it was something that was put into motion way before we were even born. And then the leadership of NWI was also putting more energy towards it. And then us at this more youthful generation was putting energy towards it. And it culminated to a very special project that I'm really happy about called Takona. And it's this short film that talks about some of these topics of mental health. And we even touch upon toxic masculinity and what that can mean and what it means in Native country. Well, it went through 2 different phases. And the first time it just didn't come out right how we wanted it. And then the second time around, it was after my paternal grandmother passed away. I wrote this kind of like the script for the film on an airplane ride. Obviously a privilege to fly and those things as well, but I was just in a space, and I wrote it, and then I presented it to Shailene and to Jalene. Jalene is the director for the Native Wellness Institute, and right away she mentioned that those words, they are from my grandmother and from our other ancestors. And so when I think of when I'm accomplishing great things, it's never, I don't want to say never. My mom says, be careful when you say the word never and when you say always. We got to be very mindful how we use those. I am really actively trying to understand that what I am capable of doing is because of somebody else. And when I think of having a platform, or I create a work of art that is, receiving accolades of it's brilliant, it's amazing, it's not just like check the box, oh, I need to make sure that I am cool with my Native community, and it's not me. It's like, it's not this fake humility. It's like, it's really understanding, internalizing that we are able to do what we're doing now, even this very call, because of all these blessings and all this abundance that we have as Native people. And when I think about that, I also acknowledge the fact that that word that was used earlier, serving. How am I serving my ancestors? I feel like they're telling me and asking me to say something right now. How am I serving that request? How am I serving my community? How am I helping my community heal? And so when I think we center our mindset on how are we serving, it helps us be more humble. And just to kind of close my answer there is like, when I feel, let's say like there's a huge spotlight or like co-founding this initiative, I20SP, and being asked to speak in certain situations, I really think of my family, like my immediate family. Like thinking of Hesea can take me from like maybe feeling the nerves to just calm. I just think of her. I think of her smiling. I think of those connections with my family. So I family can mean different things, and I think our community is really good about establishing kinships that go far beyond just immediate family or household or even community, where we have relatives all over Mother Earth.
I agree, and thank you for noting the fact that as Native people, it's so beautiful that we allow ourselves to choose to also choose our own family, and sometimes that family that we choose, that means just as much as blood, and sometimes it's yeah, those bonds are just as strong, if not stronger, than sometimes those connections that you can have with your blood relatives. Thank you, Tomas, for sharing that and being so insightful into the fact that we're not able to do any of this without those who came before us. And so, Cheyenne, also I want to kick it to you on how you handle that humility, that cultural teaching of humility, along with confidence in doing the things that you do and the outreach. And I also want to note right now all of the amazing census work that you're doing in pulling the youth together to really encourage all of us to count and to understand the importance of our being. And I'm going to kick it to you to give us some insight into humility and confidence.
Thank you so much for both of your answers, because it's definitely even had me thinking a little bit too. And I guess going back to that word serving, being in any royalty position, what it is a public serving position. You're an ambassador to your community, to your motorcycle club, to your powwow, whatever it is that you represent. And so, going into your reign, that you not only are being watched, but you are also, being looked up to. And so I always think about what my grandma told me going into my very first pageant for Miss Seminole. And she was like, "You don't cry on stage." And I was like, "Why?" She was like, "You just don't do that." And I was like, "Okay, like I promise I'll try, I won't," And it wasn't so much that she was like, like, keep yourself together, you don't act like that. It was more just like, what's meant to happen is always going to happen. And if it's meant for you, it'll find you. And maybe you weren't ready for it in that moment, but if it's meant to be yours, it'll find you again. And so I kind of realized that later on, but everything that I've been taught by all the women in my life, and I grew up with 3 sisters, all my aunts, all my grandmas, everybody all around me my entire life. And there's always going to be your turn is what I learned with that. Whether it's a toy, whether it's a movie, no matter what it is, you're going to have your turn. And so always remember that being in these serving positions, whether you're a royalty or just a community member, even, you serve your people. And the Creator is always watching you. God is always watching you. Your ancestors are always watching you. And so in everything that you do, and everything that we're even taught with our cultural teachings, our community is at the center of all of it. Whether it's coming together to eat, whether it's coming together to discuss something important, whatever it may be, our community was always taught to us to be at the center of everything that we do, and that everything we do also affects everybody around us. And so taking, those things that I was taught by everybody in my life, and then especially going into something as big as Miss Indian World, you really, really have to think about the things that you're doing, that you're saying, and the power that all those things hold. But it's also remembering that you are deserving of being in these spaces as well. And this kind of goes back to those boxes that we're always trying to be jammed into, that we don't fit per se. And so I think, if anything, what's so important to take away from this in regards to humility is that if things are meant to be, they will find you. And that to be in these positions, or to be let's say, just something that you want to go after, you also have to be in a very good space with yourself. And so I always have to remind myself of that. And I always have to remember that, for whatever reason, I finally decided to run for Miss Indian World, for instance. And going into that, I never had the mindset of like, I'm going to win, like it's done, period. Like, no, my grandma was like, watch yourself, because you have to remember that you may think, or I don't want to say think, but it's just important to ground yourself, keep yourself down on the ground, and to feel that grass under you, and to remember that each of us does have a purpose in this life, but we also have to be ready to serve that purpose, and to remember that the community and your family, and whether that's chosen family, blood family, clan, whatever it may be, that is right there behind you, and your ancestors are watching you, and the creator's watching you. And just to remember that you are capable, and that you are deserving, and that you, just as much as anybody else, is able to be in that spotlight and represent and serve your people to the best of your capabilities.
Thank you, Cheyenne. I love that. Yeah, definitely agree with all of you. Thank you again for providing us with your insight. You all do amazing work in different realms, but it's all for the betterment of our people. And so on that note, in doing the work that you guys are doing, when having self-confidence and having that humility, obviously life happens, and you go through these highs where you're jumping up and down, you go through the lows where we might drop a tear or two. So and today's topic is about caring for my emotions. And so I think within that, I want to touch on, how do you allow yourself to feel those emotions? I think it's much easier for us to allow ourselves to be super happy and for jumping. But as you know, life on this earth is not always up there. And without going through those highs and lows, maybe we don't learn as much. Maybe we don't have that experience. One thing that I want to note, and I think Jolene said it a couple meetings ago, was that to keep in mind that setbacks are often setups for greater things. And so on that note, Tomas, I want to kick it to you on, how do you allow yourself to or maybe at one point it was hard for you to feel those emotions. I know for me it was. So how do you allow yourself to feel those emotions, whether they're up here, whether down here, or whether they're just kind of in the middle? Guidance on how to cope with those emotions, what to do.
Yeah, when I think about the times, the highs and the lows, I know I talked a lot about the highs, and it's really important that we talk about the lows and how we approach those moments. I definitely didn't always know how to allow myself to have like, self-awareness of those feelings. And being that this is a month where we think of our relatives who have taken their own life or have attempted, it's a tough topic to talk about, in the sense of like there's a lot of memories that I have for myself and people that I love that that carry a lot of weight. And when I think of my own journey, there were, just like our other amazing guests here, moments where I didn't love myself, and it still happens from time to time. And I think back to the times where, like each time I learn a little bit more about what works for me. And I want to really like bring that point home, is what works for you is different than what works for me. But as we share these experiences, like it helps us understand different means, different methods, different ways for us to then try, oh, well, if that worked for this person, I'm gonna try that for myself. And it's kind of, the puzzle piece sometimes doesn't fit, but when it does, and maybe it doesn't fit exactly perfect, but there's the thing to kind of move through as well. And I love that my sister here, Shailene, she's not on the actual live, but there's this teaching that her uncle taught her about perfection and what that means. And she shared the story, and I'll try to paraphrase, but they went on a hike and the uncle picked up this flower, clipped it out, and tore a petal. And when he tore the petal, he asked her, "Is this broken?" And she says, "Yes." And then he grabs that petal and then he gently closed it back. And Shailene says it looked absolutely seamless. And then he asked, "Is it broken? Is there still a crack in it?" And then, so that was a really big question. It's like, and then he answered, "Yes, there's still there, but it's whole. So are we working towards being whole, or are we working towards being perfect?" So I encourage you, all of you, please, to love yourself and work towards feeling whole versus feeling perfect. Trying to be perfect really like beat me up spiritually, like hardcore. And part of how I managed through it was where I was growing up in West Phoenix. Some of my peers were very misogynistic or homophobic, and instead of like judging them or judging, you know, their households, or even the kind of embedded internalized racism with any of our households or ourselves, that's something to navigate through too. So that goes kind of ties into the humility. I'm not going to say I'm 100% free of racism. I'm 100% free of this, because again, we're leaning towards perfection. Why? I understand, and our teachings tell us that, you know, there's always some level of balance at every, like, whether we go really big in our thinking or look down to a you know, a little leaf or a flower petal. Where's that balance? And so I've said this before, creating that sacred space for me, it meant when it was time to telling some of my homies, like, nah, I don't like what you're saying right there, you know? And it was hard because it was like, dude, you're like, oh, you're tripping, where are you coming from? Or like, you're being soft, you're being this, you're being that. And it, again, who am I? Am I trying to be perfectly cool for them? What am I doing? And I think asking that question is, you know, where is it coming from? What's motivating our action? And I think what's helpful is if what's motivating your action is healing for yourself, for your family, for your tribal nations, for your community, that's a good direction. Like, and try to be as honest with yourself as possible. But just sending love to all my relatives out there, you know, during this pandemic, during a lot of crises that kind of happened throughout our lives and the different histories. There's a lot to take in, and through the Native Wellness Institute, there's like different tools that I've learned to like let go of certain things. And I feel like, again, and I encourage each person to find the way that works for them, and to really, when you need help, ask for it, and then you can kind of see, oh, I'm gonna try that.
Thank you. I love the note on what works for you might not work for me. What works for me, sometimes it might work for you, but sometimes it might not. And so encouraging people to try different things until you might find that one thing that you love and that works for you. And so I want to kick it over to Cheyenne and see if you can talk about how you allow yourself to feel those emotions, but then also on top of just feeling those emotions, deciding, okay, like, how do I feel about these emotions that I'm feeling? And just thank you again, Tomas. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your answer. It was very, very insightful, and it is very, very important for everyone to remember that wellness also does not fit one box. I'm so sorry if you hear that bell, it's my dog. But yes, wellness does not fit one path, one description, one way. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And that was something I had to learn myself. My lows consisted of like very severe depression. And I remember just really struggling to, let alone like go to school or be social or anything like that. Like I was struggling to eat. I was struggling to just shower, brush my hair, like things that would seem so basic were so difficult for me to do. And I remember feeling so empty inside. Like I can literally sit here and say it felt like I had a black hole in my chest where I felt like my heart and my spirit and my soul was supposed to be. And, I remember sitting there like contemplating, like, why am I even here? Like, what is the point of this? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? And, when it got to the point where my mom noticed that it was that bad and I wasn't eating and all these different things, my mom actually was the one that pretty much forced me to go get help. And I know that I have a very, very large privilege in having a Center for Behavioral Health here on my reservation. And so, just that accessibility alone was something that I do think saved my life. And so when I finally went in and, I'm sitting here speaking with this non-native therapist and I'm like, what does this lady know about my struggles, And so the first challenge was getting over that very like closed-minded perspective of like, she's not going to understand what I'm feeling or what I'm going through. And then the second was actually opening up in that room, and to where I finally understood like, okay, I'm going through depression and I'm going through really bad anxiety. And even then it was figuring out at that point, like, what is going to be my wellness journey in dealing with depression and anxiety. And so at first I wanted to take a very holistic approach. I did not want to take medication. I didn't want to be on anything that I felt like was going to alter me. And so, I tried everything. I tried teas, I tried acupuncture, I tried many different things, and it just never gave me that like big enough kick to get me out of my own hole, is what I call it. But eventually I did have to get on antidepressants, and because of that, I was able to finish college. I was able to just really start living like a whole life, definitely touching on, what Tomas was talking about. And I started realizing like, it doesn't have to be like this. This isn't what it's supposed to be like. And so I do encourage anybody that is, maybe going through something and maybe not understanding it. It's okay. It really, really is okay. It is so okay to not be okay. I promise you, so many people go through this, and there's such a large stigma around that conversation and maybe even reaching out for help, medications, therapy, all these things. But I promise you, what may have just worked for me is not supposed to necessarily work for you, but there is a way, and there is a way for you to begin your healing and your wellness journey. And so I encourage you to just ask for help, do it. I promise you, it can be life-changing. And so I guess after going through like the tougher part of my journey, I started realizing that I wasn't honoring my own emotions. And in part, I also wasn't honoring myself. And so, yes, we love to celebrate our happiness and our joy, and we love laughing until our face hurts and everything. But we should be honoring, I guess, the negatively connotated emotions as well. We should be honoring and I guess in a way celebrating those things too, because that's what makes us human. And we wouldn't know what happiness is if we weren't able to feel sadness or anger. And so I really had to relearn what it is to feel my own emotions. And so I started, if I was feeling upset or if I was feeling sad, journaling became a very big thing for me. When I was really going through my depression, I was drawing things, and I noticed that even my drawings were kind of dark and things like that. But every day, I guess they started getting lighter and lighter. Sometimes even now with this pandemic, if I'm feeling like really just overwhelmed because I sit at a computer all day, I'll go for a walk, or I'll play with my dogs. My dogs are something that has been very therapeutic for me as well. Music can be something, but there's just so many different outlets. And so I guess as far as emotions go, I just encourage you to honor those things, because those are the things that make you human. And so celebrate your wins, but celebrate your losses too, because without losses, like I'm not sure how you said it before, but it was they're not setbacks, they're set ups. And so if I wouldn't have gone through this like, you know, really eye-opening and journey with like my own mental health and things like that, I don't know if I would be sitting here right now, for instance. And so trust the journey and trust the process, and know that you know, always that the creator and the ancestor is with you, and that you are never ever alone. I can sit here and say, you know, Cheyenne's family is like literally family to me. I stay texting your mom, by the way. And and so, you know, there's so many ways that and you know, with the blessing of technology as well, I'm on Zoom all the time and FaceTime all the time. And so just honor yourself by honoring your emotions. And I promise, you know, you are infinitely loved by so many people around you. And, you know, especially to the youth, you guys are the very future of our people. And we need you. And you are so incredibly important and so capable of so many different things. And so just remember that you are important.
Thank you, Cheyenne. I love your note on first being able to recognize your emotion, being able to recognize the emotion that you're feeling. And I also liked your note on how to be able to go about kind of releasing any emotions after sitting behind a computer all day. That's kind of where we're all at right now within these spaces. And so thank you for that. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. I know that that's not easy. And so I encourage you to take a deep breath and just thank you. I appreciate it. And Shavana, I want to kick it over to you to be able to share on allowing yourself to feel your emotions and going through that process. And then we have one more question to get through, and I just want to prime you guys so you guys can maybe think about it. I want you guys all to be able to give some advice to the younger generation, or what would you tell the younger you about healing and taking care of your emotions and just self-love, taking care of yourself. Before we get to that, Shavana, would you be willing to speak on feeling your emotions, allowing yourself to feel those emotions?
Yes. So I was kind of silenced from a very young age and not to talk about my emotions. So it took me a long time to actually do that. And it came out in very different ways, like underage drinking and just making bad decisions. So I shamed myself a lot, and how I allowed myself to be accepting of those emotions and to recognize them was to tell myself to be forgiving to myself and not to be too hard on me, because I didn't have someone to show me the right path at such a young age. So allow myself to feel them now, feel angry that somebody wasn't there for me when they should have been, feel angry when someone didn't protect me when they should have. And so I allow myself to feel all those emotions now, and I find healthy coping mechanisms for them. So something I have always done since I was a little girl when I would feel alone, like Cheyenne mentioned, was that Creator is always with you, is I would talk to him when I was a little girl. And like, I don't know if it was because I was so lonely that he would talk back to me and tell me I'm okay and that my mom was going to come back to me. And like all these things that just really kept me alive, Creator would talk to me and show me ways that I'm going to be okay. So that was all I had, was talking to Creator and really trying to deal with just an intense sadness that a child should never feel. So I do my inner child healing right now. I feel like that's going to be like a lifetime healing, something I'm going to live with. And I'm really gentle with myself. So I encourage you to be gentle with yourself. If someone treated you badly when you were younger, that wasn't your fault, and they should have apologized for losing their cool. So that's just how I like to be to other people, is to just show kindness. My uncle told me, no matter who you come across, be nice to them, because you could be the first person to show them that kind of kindness. And so from all walks of life, I am kind to you, and that allows me to be kinder to myself. Because I feel like compassion is kind of hard to come by these days. So it's just my way of life to be a kind person and to be kind to myself, because I really wasn't for all of my life. I want to say it's probably been about 2 years since I've been on my self-love journey, and it was not easy. I had to like open the floodgates of everything I've been through, and I had to do it in a safe space. So people who I trusted, and I hope you have that. If you don't, journals are really nice. I like writing in my journal because I don't remember a lot of things. So I write everything down so I can look back. And then I also let my emotions, like the really bad ones that don't belong to me, I let them be absorbed into the land, because that takes it in for me and it's healing for me. I let it go into our 1,000-year-old ancestor that's a cedar tree, or our mother, the ocean. I allow those bad emotions to go there. So those are just some of the things that I do. And I'm always happy to help with resources for other people. I love helping people. It helps me help myself. Yes.
Thank you, Shavana. I appreciate your acknowledgement to Creator and your willingness to show us the ways that you've nourished your relationship with Creator, and acknowledging and allowing us to know that you keep talking to Creator, she will speak back to you. And also acknowledging that some of the experiences that you might have gone through that have maybe a really harsh effect on your life, those are not always your fault. But you can address it, and choose how you feel and how you handle it. And so thank you, Shavana, for being vulnerable and sharing a piece of your story with us. And I know that we had one question in the chat that talked about what advice would you have for students as they're struggling with online learning or falling behind because of anxiety and worry. So I think that question kind of ties really well with how we want to wrap up today, in the sense of what advice would you give to the younger you in regards to self-love, or allowing yourself to feel the emotion and understand that emotion, to the younger you, and then which also would right now be advice to those youth who are that younger you right now, who will eventually be our leaders, who are that future. And so I want to kick it to Cheyenne to give us some advice that you would give the younger you, or give us some advice for the younger generation in regards to self-love.
I do think the first thing I want to say is be nice to yourself. Sometimes I kind of think back to how harsh and like mean I was to me. And it's very sad to think that, even if we're putting kindness out into the world, sometimes we don't give that to ourselves. And I wish I knew who this quote was from, but it's pretty much centered around like, you can look for somebody all over the world to give all of your love and affection to, but you are never going to find anybody that's more deserving of it than yourself. And I wish I would have known that, especially, in those transition years, kind of going through middle school and high school, especially when you're really trying to find yourself, and you're like trying new hairstyles and like trying to, change up your clothes and stuff. And I know it's just a very, very tough time. I remember feeling so lost a lot of the time. And I wish that I would have been nicer to me. I wish I would have like looked in the mirror and just said, you are so cool. Like, you are cool and you're beautiful and you're funny and you are deserving of love and you're deserving of good friendships, and you're deserving of everything that you try to also put out into the world. And especially to the youth right now, I know that things are really tough. And I know that, with online school, you guys are definitely being tested in a different type of way than I think any of us have ever experienced, especially being in school. And I just want you guys to know that right now, the normalcy that we may have been used to from before is not here, but that resiliency that we are always being preached to about, whether it's on Instagram, from our elders, from our families. It's not something to be taken lightly. That resiliency is literally running through your veins in your body. And, you know, right now, I know things that are new and we're going through this really different transition, but you guys are so capable and so intelligent. You guys literally know how to use an iPad better than me. So, remember to be kind to yourselves. You guys aren't gonna, you know, have all of this figured out right now, and that's okay, but you're going to figure it out, and you're gonna find a schedule or a pattern that works for you. And just remember to give yourselves moments to honor your emotions. So if you're feeling frustrated, allow yourself to feel that frustration, and kind of like what Shabana said, and let that frustration come out of you. You know, give it to the land. Let your ancestors carry that for you. And you're not a burden. You are not, you know, you are not deserving of being great. And so to all of the students, I send you many prayers for health and for safety and for success through your school year. And just know that everybody on this chat, as well as everybody all across Indian country, is literally rooting for you guys. You guys are our future, whether it's being a language teacher, a medicine person, being in politics, whatever it may be. You guys have a purpose that you're supposed to fill. And right now it's just going to be one of the bumps in the road. But I guess, like, hop in your little war pony and just keep riding it out, because you're going to be good, I promise you. And so give yourself that love, give yourself that kindness, and just remember that you are so beautiful. And you're going to be good. You guys are going to be good. I know that you will. And so much love to everybody.
Yes, thank you, Shabana. Thank you, Cheyenne. I want to kick it over to Shabana. Is there any advice that you would give to the younger you, to the younger generation right now, about self-love, self-healing? Uh-oh, can you guys hear? Shabana, we can't hear you. You might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
You're good.
So I can answer that, and I feel like Cheyenne answered it best. Like, we are all rooting for you, and reach out for support systems. I'm optimistic, but I also like to highlight that things are bad and they're not normal. So we're gonna have to roll with that and just get through it. I have said before, we can't get over it, but we can get through it. You have everything inside of you to get through these things. And what I would tell my younger self is to just be patient with yourself, and that you are loved. Even if you feel like you aren't, you are loved, and that there's support all around you. You're not alone, and you're going to be amazing one day. That's what I would tell my younger self. But I wanted to just keep it short and sweet. You have all of my support. You have all my love, and I'm here for anyone, really. Yeah.
Thank you, Shabana, and we appreciate you. And you were testing our lip reading skills there for a little bit. Hey, just kidding. But Tomas, I want to kick it to you on advice that you have for the younger generation, something that you would tell yourself when you were younger, trying to navigate self-love and emotion, and also keeping in mind the trying times of online school and the struggles that our youth might be going through right now.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna try to condense some of the things that I was taught, but I definitely want to say that I completely rock with the answer from Shabana and from Cheyenne when it comes to knowing that you're being rooted for. And we on this live are future ancestors, and you are future ancestors, and understanding how to be grateful for that sacred opportunity to be an ancestor, and to have a commitment to one another to protect our relatives and be good relatives to each other is something that I take as a very special opportunity. And so what I would have told myself back in the day, or something I would have reinforced, is, and we're hearing this more during the pandemic, is the word pivot. How do we pivot? And so to my athletes out there, to my dancers, to all my people doing art, in all the facets of life, we can talk about how we pivot. And I feel like as Indigenous people, we're like some of the original pivoters. And it's like we would pray, pivot, and pray. And there was always some intention behind it. So when I look at myself, there was times where I pivoted, but I wasn't aware that I was pivoting in a way that was healthy for me. I just did it and I felt like something went better for me. So as we become more self-aware, as we become more trauma informed and know what healthy relationships look like with ourselves and with others, when we're pivoting and we're moving towards things that serve us good and bring good things to our life, we build that muscle memory, we build that emotional memory to do it again and again. And the beautiful part is, as we do that, we learn it so well that we teach it to others. And as we teach it to others, we learn it even better. So I know while we're speaking to the youth right now, that this is right now, right? Snapshot. But even right now, you probably have younger siblings that are really looking up to you. And as you put to practice these healthy ways of pivoting, of understanding trauma and how to honor, as it was said by Cheyenne, even the things that have negative, in mainstream culture, negative connotations or negative feelings, really understanding that it's part of the balance, and that we have an understanding as Indigenous people that these negative things are part of creation, part of existence. And it gave me chills, Cheyenne, when you talked about the black hole analogy, because I think a lot of us can relate to that. A black hole consuming everything possible, all the positivity and light, is how it's sometimes described in ways. But what I quickly wanted to say about that, when I look at the times in my life when I felt there was a black hole in my home, a black hole in my heart, dominant culture could tell us, be afraid, don't look, don't go that way. But I think when you prepare yourself to pass through those emotions, to feel them, to go through that black hole, dominant culture tells us too, and science too. I know we have a lot of Indigenous scientists here, and we're original scientists as well. There's something at the other end of that black hole, and you're going to be able to really understand and view your existence and your role in community when you allow yourself to also process those emotions. So some of this is like really, it makes me go off into philosophical things, but I just, to say one more thing is that we should try not to confuse kindness with weakness, and to echo what my sister said here, be kind to yourself. I wish I was kinder to myself when I was younger. Eloqua.
Thank you. Thank you, Tomas. Yeah, you guys are empowering me, making me I'm gonna take a minute, I think, after this and just think about all of this. And I hope that all of those who tuned in, that you can each take something from this conversation and from the things that our panelists have shared. And once again, I just want to thank the panelists for allowing a piece of yourselves to us, allowing insight into your lives, insight into how you love yourself, how you feel those emotions. Thank you for your words of advice, and I hope that everyone tuning in can take something from this. I encourage you to talk about it with your family, with the youth. Conversation is something that can be healing too. This conversation was really healing for me, helping me in my everyday life. And I think communication is something that we can all continue to work towards as an Indigenous population, and allowing ourselves to communicate about our feelings and our emotions. And so in closing, I just want to say thank you to all of you. I appreciate you all. Thank you to our viewers. Catch us again tomorrow, same time, same place. And tomorrow's topic will be caring for my mental health. And on Friday, it'll be caring for my spiritual health. And so thank you all again. Feel free to come tomorrow. We hope to continue the conversations. Thank you, guys.